What's going on YouTube? Man, it's hot out here. We confirmed our next location. We'll be moving to Southeast Asia, specifically Bangkok, Thailand, in the next 2 weeks. That's our next pivot. That's our next destination for the time being. And, it's part of the process, right? I've been stating here over the last couple months that I'm trying to reach a certain level of freedom. We know that freedom is attributed to the ability to have peace, to have flexibility, to have options, right? To not just dream and plan for goals, but to execute it, right? It's not just freedom of speech. It's not voting, right? It's not being able to choose what beer you want at the store, right? That's not the level of freedom that I'm trying to, achieve. It's bigger picture. It's higher level, right? I don't believe any place is going to be perfect. I'm not looking for this utopia, and I'm not expecting a utopia in this lifetime. I'm just not. I'm just too realistic to do that. But what I am hoping and expecting and being optimistic about is opening my mind to different types of living, different types of environment, different types of cultures, because we don't always know what we're doing is the right way, or we feel like what we're doing is the only way. And I'm not under that impression. There's 8+ billion people in this world, and I cannot believe that 300 million, 400 million, a million people doing something one way is it, right? I just don't. So, um, take it or leave it. Obviously, we've been doing our research, man, for the last couple months on this topic. I've always, like I told you guys, right? I'm currently in Jamaica. I've always wanted to not just travel, but be long term out of the States, because the States is just one country, right? It's one country. And there's 190 plus other countries, islands, provinces around this globe. Will I make it to every one of them? If I'm very fortunate and smart with my money, right? If there's opportunities that allows us to, fast travel in a sense, right? That's not the goal up front. The goal is to just expand, man. Like, just try different things, look at different areas, like look at different parts of the water, right? We don't have to just stay on the Pacific, stay at the Atlantic, stay at the Gulf. Let's just expand. Let's expand. So part of that expansion is physically expanding, not just thinking about it and talking about it. We got to physically do it. What I've been noticing is that I think in that piece that at least I'm looking for, this is going to be a little subjective. I would think a lot of people would agree with me on this factor, though, is what I'm looking for, right? And how I'm trying to phase myself out of kind of being this rat race type of mindset. I don't feel like I'm above it, but I have a plan to not feel manipulated by it, right? And a lot of times, all you got to do is just move. That's not going to be the end all be all, but a lot of times you don't just you can't change anything just because you don't want to change your location. Change can be physical. Most of the times it is physical, right? So part of kind of my process is, how do I phase from being at work full time? How do I phase from having the need to make money the end goal? Because it's not. But I feel like we work, right? I've said a lot of times, most of us is working 2 to 3 jobs, right? Simply to make ends meet, not to pay off debt, right? Not to, buy an asset, right? Not to start developing discretionary income for stocks, right? We're doing that for main survival, right? We've used up grace periods with our light bills, like, so we're having to work and make other income just to make it to the next week or the next month. That's not it. Americans make too much money to do that. Even if you're making minimum wage, and again, you're not going to realize unless you're on the other side of the coin. People don't understand that $10 an hour, $12 an hour, right? $20,000 a year. You're in poverty in America. but you're doing very well in other places, just a couple hours away outside of the States. It's as simple as just wanting to be out of it. We have Google, we have all this, we have YouTube, right? We have different means of, just finding out information. And just like we do with a job, right? In some jobs, you gotta move south, right? Move out of the city, move out of the state to just make more money, right? It's a lateral move in your responsibilities, but just living somewhere else, right, could allow you to make more money, you know? Well, I think the opposite. I think the new goal, or the part where I'm at with re-engineering my mindset, is I don't need to make more money. How do I keep more money? I'm willing to make less money and to keep more money. Less is more, instance, right? So, you know, that's part of our pivot. It's part of our pivot, right? Obviously, my family's engaged in this, and you know, our goal is just more life. I can't commit to having more life and reaching that sense of peace, flexibility, i.e., freedom, if I'm tied down to a 40-hour, 50-hour, 60-hour job. All right, that's just not going to work for me. I don't want to wait till retirement. Or to the quote unquote um, default retirement age of early retirement is below 59 and a half. Regular retirement is what, 62 plus, right? I'm not doing that. Don't need to do that if I'm willing to search, if I'm willing to put myself in a different place, right? If I'm willing to develop a sense of isolation, at least initially, because we get caught up in our families here, our friends is here, our job, work, or the ability to work, excuse me, right? Um, all that stuff, but my whole tune is that gray area, right? How having to maneuver, and that next maneuvering, man, is the southeast, right? It's that whole continent, right? I've been in North America too long, long enough. Sowed my oats, right? Long enough. I'm not denouncing my citizenship. I'm exasperating it a bit, right? I'm using it to my advantage, right? I don't have a problem with what I was born with or into in that regard. But what I have a problem with is that um, we're told one thing. We're told that, yeah, just keep chasing that carrot and you'll get there. And there's people that I know. Again, why I'm so gun ho on this is because this is not just stuff I research. This is stuff I deal with. I work with people. I hire myself people who are in positions that I don't want to be in, that I would be looking forward to if I'm not smart with my relationship, smart with my money, smart with my health, you know. And that's all. Just my circle at work is enough for me to pivot. It's enough. So, I'm able to get into a place where I could take at least a leave of absence, just take a couple months to just figure some other stuff out, right? Work on developing that sense of self, that sense of um, um, not self-identification, but just continually re-engineering my mind to not think work is it, or being in a 9 to 5 situation is it, right? Continue to figure out how to develop passive income, develop income while I sleep, right? And ultimately keep cost low. Live at, if not below means. It's a simple math to me, right? So provide insight, man. Provide your comments. What you guys think. What you guys think about just the state of just where life is. How do you guys feel about taking different opportunities that displaces yourself from comfortability, like being comfortable in a day-to-day situation. We're so dogmatic. Like, the mind is powerful. Like, we know what we're doing isn't going to get us to where we're going, but we're just used to it. That alone is the problem. That's the first step. We know, like, we will actually tell ourselves and other people, yeah, I don't think this is it, but this is it. You know, these are conversations, again, I have. I'm speaking from experience, right? My scale is big in this because of simply the field that I work in, you know, so it's insane, right? You know, my whole goal is basically in the next couple of weeks, my goal is to never work full time again. I am trying to pivot. I am trying to pivot. I have a 4-year plan of not working a 9 to 5 ever again. While I'm at least in the Southeast Asia region of the world, I'm able to only having to work part time, right? And then work on developing, you know, um, passive income. Work on increasing that. Work on, my health. Work on my relationship with my wife and my kids. Just buy back time. Buy back time is the thing, right? That's where freedom is. We could buy back time and utilize time to a little bit more to our advantage. So that's where I'm at, guys. Man, it's hot. That's where I'm at. And again, this all point of me, the whole point of me sharing this is to provide motivation to people wanting to do this, and other people are in their ear or their own mentality is keeping them back. Because I know there's a lot of people looking at this stuff too. There's a lot of people thinking about just moving, whether you're in a rental, whether you own a house, right? Like, I urge people, you don't got to go to the exact spot. You don't have to do it today, right? But make sure you understand where you're going in your life, your trajectory. So I would ask you this: is the current situation putting you in a trajectory of both positivity, increase, and peace? You ask yourself those 3 questions every day, you're going to start picking up and going, at least mentally first, right? You're going to start pivoting. You're going to start plotting, planning, right? You're going to start telling people, no, I'm not doing this. This doesn't make sense. It's good to be selfish in a sense to where you are going to get yourself in a position to one day help somebody else. But people be trying to help other people or trying to do too much, and they can't, they're not in that position to do that yet, So you don't always have to be radical and extreme and do something like at the snap of your fingers, but you got to be able to plan. You got to be able to appropriate. You got to be able to navigate. But at the end of the day, there comes a certain point in your life where it clicks and you execute no matter the consequences, right? But they say faith without works is dead. So as always, guys, peace. Y'all stay blessed till the next one. I'll keep you updated on the move.
My name starts to bubble. I guess my soap mean black been the new gold. Wonder if this bread come with peace. That's a new loaf. We up. That's a new float. They root now. Told them all to bury. It's a new glow. I kept it all a beam like we see gold. I thought that I was air, so I grew this little mustard seed. Counting on this one hand who believed, man, they must have seen. Counting couple zeros, no one pitched in.